Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Berry. I'm the president here at Schoodic Institute at Acadia National Park, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this evening. We have a presentation by Dr. Federico Nicolini, who is an expert on park management, joining us from Italy. And he'll speak about challenges in park management in Italy and make some comparisons with the U.S. National Park System and have some support in making those comparisons from Sheridan Steele, our superintendent here at Acadia. I'd like to briefly comment about Schoodic Institute and who we are and how we work with the National Park Service here at Acadia. So we are the nonprofit partner in management of the Schoodic Education and Research Center. We are committed to providing a greater appreciation for and understanding of the natural world. We work in very close cooperation with the National Park Service on a wide range of research and education activities. We're joined this evening by a number of people who've been participating for the last 2 days in a climate change scenario planning exercise for Acadia National Park that I think has brought attention and focus to some of the greatest challenges we will face in continuing to steward the resources of Acadia for future generations. And we are also joined by a number of people who are here for an extended visit as volunteers through a partnership with Earthwatch, participating as citizen scientists in gathering some of the information that will help to inform future management decisions here in the park. So those two groups here on campus today are very nice representations of the type of activity we're engaged in. Tomorrow we transition into the annual Acadia National Park Science Symposium, which will be a great opportunity to learn and share and hear about the wide range of current science activity in Acadia, its relevance to the park, and its relevance to the broader region. Our education activities here focus on the entire life of people. As many of you know, we have 75 seventh graders that just arrived this afternoon. We'll see about 850 middle school students over the course of the fall here, typically for 3-day experiences in the park. Our Earthwatch volunteers are a great example of lifelong learning and people that are not only contributing but having an inspirational education experience at the same time. So I'm going to wrap up there, welcome our distinguished guest, and look forward to his presentation.
Thank you, Mark. I want to say that I'm very glad and honored to be here. In spite of my very Italian English, it's the 16th time I come in the United States for a reason linked to the topic of this presentation, and all the times I really feel a little part of me feel American in this kind of continuous exchange, and I want to thank the superintendent of the Acadia National Park, Sheridan Steele, for his interest in keeping our connection that is born in 2009 alive and give this opportunity for this new exchange. Let me shortly introduce. I work in the center of Italy as Associate Professor of Organizational Science for the University of Macerata. Macerata is a little town, but the university has more than 700 years of history. I'm also cooperating with Colorado State University from the 2007, and also with other United States universities, especially with Stanford, where I spent a couple of summers working, studying marine protected areas. My history is in the university, but also in the protected areas. Before like consultant, then like a researcher, and I still work for some marine protected areas in Italy. And I had a cooperation for 4 years with the Northeast region from the 2001 to the 2005 of the National Park Service. And from the 99, I am member of the Work Commission of Protected Areas of the IUCN. Let's go to our talk. I will introduce the scenario of nature and protected areas in Italy, and then I will go on some organizational and managerial characteristics that will be shortly explained. Then I will try to connect these characteristics to a model that I produced with the professor I work with Stanford, that I used to interpret protected areas effectiveness, and then I will go through some common important challenges that we, in my opinion, in Italy and the United States have together. And we will look shortly also some Italian protected areas benchmark experiences. Okay, let's start from our situation. The worldwide image of Italy is of a nation rich of cultural and historical resources. This is Florence, picture taken by Piazzale Michelangelo. But we have also different from the United States, but a strong heritage also from a national point of view. We can say that in Italy we have a mosaic of natural and cultural resources together. I live in Tuscany, I live in this area. I love to hike, and I move for every hiking near from a big city. The red one are the provinces, so Florence, Pisa, Livorno, Siena. But within 20-25 miles from every city in Tuscany, you can find a vital population of wolves. Everywhere. Before, only in the Apennine, especially in this area, and in the Maremma area near Grosseto. Now you find also in the hills near Pisa, in the hills near Livorno, in the hills near Siena, some area near Lucca and near Massa Carrara. That means if you find a wolf, you have a good ecosystem, a good nature. So we have not only monuments, we have vital nature, not only in Tuscany, because Apennine moved from Abruzzo and now arrived in the Alps, in Switzerland, in France, but it's the Apennine wolves that has been moved from the mountains in the center of Italy to the Alps and the other areas. This is our Italian protected areas system, if you can call in this way. We have some national parks, 24 are the orange area in the map. And we have some important national reserve that are very important in the mosaic I was speaking before. Some good system in some region of regional parks, the green areas. Then in the last 10 years, we start to establish several marine protected areas. Now we have 31 marine protected areas. And then a lot of regional reserve, and then other kind of protected areas. But which kind of protected areas do we have? We have no one category 1A of IUCN, no wilderness area. So mostly of the protected areas in Italy are category 5, so little reserve, important for some ecosystem like this. These are two pictures that I personally took in Tuscany. So relevant ecosystem for some vegetation or for some animals. And these are the more than 50% of the numbers of protected areas are category 5 IUCN. But most of 50% of the extension of the area are category 4. Most of the 50% of extension are not category 4 but category 5. So areas that the natural history of this area come out from an interaction between man and the landscape, like Cinque Terre National Park or this grazing Tuscan area. So man and the nature are in a continuous interaction in this kind of protected areas. So which are our protected areas characteristics? The property asset, completely different from yours. Many of our national parks do not own the lands. So we work on private lands or on lands that are owned by other public authorities, like counties, like municipalities that sometimes do not share the same mission of conservation of nature. Then self-financing is low. Only 5%, a little less, it's the average rate in our protected area. So we live about with the public funds. Management tools. Some protected areas, like marine protected areas, use, others do not use. So strategic plans, operational plans are very rare. Business plans are not used in many protected areas, even national parks. We have park plans that are more urbanistic tools that has been done in many, especially in many national and regional parks, but sometimes they are adopted and they are rarely adopted because the bureaucratic process to get effective is very long, articulated. Then, this is a research that I did with a group of researchers on Acadia National Park some years ago, where we identified the main partners of the park, like in many other national parks in the United States. You well know that you have friends of the park and not only. These are the relevant partner of Cuyahoga, and this is an example in the United States. And in Italy, these are very, very rare. Very, very rare. So we have low relationships, like here today, between NGOs and the park authorities. Low number of this kind of relationships. Another relevant characteristic that the institutional development of many protected areas is not high. So a significant percentage of protected area can be considered still paper park. So it has been established very frequently. They have also a organizational chart, but then the organizational chart is almost empty. So I worked for Asinara National Park, some years ago, they had an organizational chart of 15 permanent employees, and only 3 was really working to the park. So the park, yes, is on the map, but then the operations are difficult to be done by the authority that own the mission of conservation and management of the resources. So in several cases, protected areas do not have professional staff, sometimes including also the superintendent. Okay. So all these characteristics are, in my opinion, some of them, of that characteristic, a consequences of our model of management that is fragmented. So each protected area is managed by an autonomous authority that is separated from the authority that manage another protected areas. So if we have 24 national parks, we have 22 national authority, completely separated, juridically separated. We have no national park service, not at national and a regional level. So this is another research that my group of research done. You have on these columns the kind of protected areas from an administrative point of view: national park, national reserve, regional parks, regional reserve, other protected areas, marine protected areas, underwater parks, we have a couple, and the marine sanctuary. And on the lines, you have the different kind of authorities that manage the protected areas. So you see counties manage 196 protected areas, 1 national park, 1 national reserve, 18 regional parks, 124 regional reserve, and so on. So the municipalities manage 137 protected areas, mostly regional reserve. Fortunately, all the national reserves are managed by the Forest Service. Because this institution has a tradition in this sector in Italy. So regional parks are managed by ente parco, that means management authority, just this, or someone by NGOs, special regional reserve. It's not strong, the rule of NGOs like in the United States. I don't know how many protected areas are managed by the National Conservancy here in all the states. Probably a lot, much more than this number, 45 in all the nations, managed by the all NGOs. So we have several kinds, 39 exactly, of different authorities to manage 7 categories of protected areas. But if we go inside some of these categories, there is another level of heterogeneity that I didn't want to explain here because make the table too much complex. So when I say consortium, there are 7 kinds of consortium. Mixed NGO, municipality, or county and municipality that are positive in heterogeneity. But probably this kind of heterogeneity is very high. So what we do not have also, this is the organizational chart that I took of one of your 7 regions. You have programs and you have services to the parks we have no centralized units to give support or develop regional or national programs. No office in Rome that do this, like in Washington, D.C., or no office in the center or south or north part of Italy, not in the region. So we have no VIP programs. So few, a couple, 3, 4 protected areas in Italy as permanent program to involve volunteer. But, so the level of volunteers recruitment into the protected areas is really low. Also, this is the organizational chart of a national park. Okay? This is the superintendent. Okay? But up higher than the superintendent, we have this big strategic apex. Okay? People that decide what to do, especially from a strategical point of view, into the park. We have a chairman. We have a board of management made by 12 persons. Then we have a scientific committee, performance evaluation team, board of advisors, and parks community that is an assembly where all the mayors of the municipality that are included into the park are called for some strategic decision with the president of the region involved into the park and the president of the counties. These people are nominated with strong political influences. And so the chairman, in many cases, a mayor or previous mayor of a municipality. It's not someone that has a degree inside the sector of nature conservation. And the chairman nominates the director, okay, that is taken by a list of experts. And every 4 years, the director needs to be renewed. Also, so the influences that the political power has on the key decision maker is very strong because we have not a system. We have not a centralized structure like MPS to manage even national parks, not even at the regional level. Then behind is the same. We have anyway surveillance, administration, environmental education, and so on. But behind the director. In some cases, you can find like a chairman, a civil engineer, a medician, a doctor. You can find people like this. Okay, we function. So I bring two very clear sentences that has been made by key United States observers that know our system. One by your superintendent, Sheridan Steele, that said Italian parks are a list, not a system, after the conference in 2009 that we organized with the University of Macerata. Another very good expert about our system is Professor Paul Blay of the University of Albany that also created a lot of twinnings between Italian protected areas and New York State protected areas. And he said, in the United States, there is a system. In Italy, a park here and a park there. That's the... So what, in my opinion, is very difficult to promote, and we absolutely need for the protected area long-term effectiveness, not a vision, it's a systemic vision. Something that reinforces the core values that has been genetic for the foundation and institution of the protected area. So in this situation, fragmented, it's difficult to promote a systemic vision. So we have no document of envisioning. I took one of your, we can say now, historical, and we have not also a vision like you have, like this or other from the Centennial Initiative, for all the system of national parks. We can have in one park here and one park there, as Paul Bray said, but not for formalized for a system. So, what is difficult to us, this is a model that I developed with the Professoressa Fiorenza Micheli of the Stanford University, that in our opinion, this model is one perspective that can explain protected areas' effectiveness. You start from a regional vision about the founders of the protected areas, someone like John Muir, like Frederick Hayden, that say we want a protected area here. Then someone else will establish a protected area authority. We develop for marine protected areas. And we are good for this in Italy. These two steps, step one and step two, you saw, we produced more than 800 protected areas. The system is very good from an establishment point of view. Then to function, to be effective, protected areas needs human resource and financial resource that can come from public fund or from NGOs. And then especially they need leadership and competent staff. And we, in many cases, lack of this. Okay? If you have all of these, you can do a core strategy, not on a paper, real core strategy that became operation, became action. And with the core strategy, you can enlist key partners. With these key partners, you can implement more action and create a shared vision between key stakeholders group in the society. And if you implement good actions, that you have social legitimization because you improve the ecological, social, and economical well-being. And then with the social legitimization, you have more resources and you create a positive loop. So what we need more in Italy to act in this point, to fix this, to establish a service, to establish something strong. Because in my opinion, our opinion, protected area now are like a sanctuary, like a place where the values of conservation of nature can be seen in action, can become paradigmatic for a larger society, and they need to continuously interact with economical, social, and especially cultural factors to develop in the society a responsible development vision. Without this mechanism, without driven openness, to be open in a driven way by a vision to the society is difficult to have a long-term perspective for any protected areas. Anyway, we have, with the park here and park there, we have some very good experiences of situation, of people, of managers that works in this condition. Because the protected areas have villages inside, have economical activities inside, have historical traditional activities inside, like agriculture. And the level of biodiversity in some parks is much higher when you do traditional agriculture than a natural reforestation. So, in this condition, we develop a very good solution in many cases. In a specific period, for example, in Cinque Terre National Park, there has been a lot of land restoration, or young people that decided to go to cultivate the land instead of going in a city to have an office work. And the production of the wine through some very interesting mechanism, the wine of the produced inside the national park is very strong. This bottle, that is a third of a liter, is sold for 40 euros. And all of the production of 1 year is sold every year. Same with the lemon in this landscape. So ecology, economy, society, culture stay together in this park and grow together in a good and responsible direction. For many years in Abruzzo National Park, we had ecotourism became the driver of the economy. We did the research. This is Abruzzo National Park, and these are other 30 communities that were similar to the social structure of the park when the park has been established. After 20 years, excuse me, I gave you not correct information, that were similar to the park when the park adopted particular strategies of ecotourism in the 70s. The level of richness of this area, the park area, after 20 years of ecotourism has been much higher than in the similar happening area that have been sampled. So we have a good case of parks that worked effectively with the local community and also with ecotourism. The park, this is a case of a park close where I live, San Rossore Regional Park, a presidential estate, now a huge park that saved a big portion of coast in Tuscany from the development. This park, now you find very beautiful coastal ecosystem, but also, like here, you have honey production. Here you have the sea, just in front of this dune. And this honey is sold to a price that is 100% higher than the other similar honey, just because it's produced into the park. And the park is a Maine biosphere area, one of the few in Italy. Also the production of cheese, of meat inside this park is very well done and made in a way compatible with the ecosystem values. So I think that anyway our real challenge, both in Italy and for my knowledge also in the United States, is cultural. I think that now we have to face some global changes that in some cases you will speak tomorrow. I don't want to tell anything. There will be people much more expert than me, but we are losing 5 meters of glaciers every year in the Alps. In the Apennine disappeared. Someone says that the actual ecological risk is similar to the nuclear one in the 60s. So the threat to Italy, United States, and not only is very strong. And probably we need to overcome, in my opinion, the concept of protected area. Something to be not only protected. Something is now the protected area is a laboratory, yes, essentially to expand the philosophy of natural conservation out of the boundaries. And this is our common, real, and global challenge. And to be effective, we need certainly to act on cultural and educational factors that are obviously linked. We need in Italy and also in the United States, in my opinion, to reinforce the conservation culture, especially in young, but not only, in young generation, that you will know are shifted away from the enjoyment from the living of nature. And I think that our responsibility from single park to park expert, park manager, park operator is really to act being into the park, but looking out of the society to be an actor of a sort of a cultural change, deep change of mentality through the ecological value. We need to bring as many people as possible to a stronger environmental responsibility. The real challenge. And in this perspective, I believe that we have something common, someone common. I always appreciate the work of this man that, in my opinion, very correctly has been defined a prophet of natural conservation, that is George Perkins Marsh, the first United States ambassador in Italy that lived for 20 years in Tuscany, and he, in the 1874, so before the creation of the first national parks in the United States, he acted on the culture of some key players, also writing this important book, Man and the Nature. Man and the Nature. That is the new the real concept of national park, of protected area in the 21st century. And he was focused, he had focused the real core value, that is the environmental responsibility. It is a genetic value of any protected area. So we have this common history, we have this bridge across the ocean, we have some common challenges, we have different, in my opinion, we have very different level of organizational, managerial development between your very well organized, historically rooted organizations and our magmatic situation from an organizational and managerial point of view. So from a systemic point of view, we have a lot to learn. In the parks here, in the parks there, I think you can find good experience to appreciate our nature and our level of interaction between society, culture, environment in our protected areas. That's all.
Well, thank you very much. That was enlightening, and I've been over there to experience some of the management of national parks. I was sitting there thinking how difficult it would be to be in a line of authority with a chairman and a director having probably different agendas. So that would seem to be the most difficult thing for the field managers over there. How does that work?
They do not have only different agenda. I saw also superintendent, director, and president cooperating very well. For example, in my first experience in San Rossore Park, they many times has different perspective, has this different philosophy, different training. Because we have, you in Denver you have training center for superintendent. We have no training center. So some directors comes from as a degree in natural sciences, but I said most of the president has been mayors, has been, so they have different perspectives. So in my sciences, Frederick Taylor, 1 century ago, said that no one organization, as Henri Fayol more than him, can have 2 heads. Right. And you have in this way, even if with different competences. And the problem, in my opinion, is the problem is that now the president has more authority than the director for really strategic decisions. And the president is the one that normally has the lower training in natural sciences, in natural conservation. Okay.
Well, I was sitting there kind of making a list of a few things that I would say are different between our organizations, and I just might kind of read those off, and then we can take some questions. But I was thinking how fortunate we are in this country, because we have a very clear mission established in law, and all of the national parks have the same mission. And so it means we have great consistency from national park to national park. But we also have public recognition of the value of national parks, the brand, if you will, the arrowhead, the yes. Uniform is the same wherever you go in the national parks here in this country, whereas that's not the case.
Website.
Website, we have a common website. And so there is a lot of similarity from national park to national park. But we also have a body of law that applies to all national parks. And so it's very clear what our mandate is in this country and the legal authority that we have. And we have a lot of case law as well that supports the mission of the national parks in this country. And so that leads to consistency, it leads to a high level of standard, and I think it leads to a level of quality. We
Sheridan.
also have control, I think, at our level, which is fortunate. Yes, we have a central office. Yes, we have a national office, and they have a very important role. They help provide that consistency and the standards. They also, excuse me, argue for us at the Washington level. They do not have that in Italy. There is no organization in their capital at the highest level of their government arguing for their needs. And we are very fortunate to have that. And lastly, I would say that control of the land is, to me, is extremely important. It's always the #1 priority because it's the land that makes up the resources, natural and cultural resources, that we're charged to protect. So I can't imagine operating a national park in Italy where you have so little control over the land and what happens to those resources that you're expected to be responsible for. So with that, I will stop and did you have something you wanted to add, or should we open it to questions?
Just, we have a clear mission, fortunately, that is made in the park frame law, the 91, and where you say that parks have some strategic goals that are conservation, education, and the parks has also a core purpose that is conservation. Unfortunately, it's clear. Someone tried to change during the year, but fortunately it's fixed. So the mission probably is that then is applied fragmented. And what you are saying about the support office in the capital is essential. Also, the superintendent that you want to do a volunteer program, do not having any support office in Rome for insurance or for other things, they say, I prefer not to do. Okay, so sometimes the lack of structure have an influence also on goodwill. Okay.
Goodwill and public support in our country is very important, and fortunately we have strong public support. Well, I think we should see if someone has a question or comment. Mark has a...
As we go to questions, to help those who may be listening at a distance or who may watch this recording later or who may be in the room with us tonight but have hearing difficulty, please raise your hand and I will bring you a microphone.
Cinzia.
Thank you, Federico. I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about, you said there are some benchmarks of success, and Cinque Terre being one.
Yes.
Without a system, was it the conservation education? How did this come about, and how did it get public support?
Cinque Terre has a strange history. And one of the other problems of the system that sometimes, like in Abruzzo, like in Cinque Terre, the benchmark reality is, exists for 10, 15 years, then change the director, the park, the protected area has a different level of effectiveness. So without the system, the effectiveness of a strategy sometimes cannot be maintained in a long-term perspective. How it can happen that in Cinque Terre they has been so effective in a specific historical period that is very recent. Because the mission that Sheridan evidenced was so strong in some of the people. Why? I made personally an anthropological analysis, I wrote a book, and the chapter was on Cinque Terre case study, that Cinque Terre was an island of a culture, because Cinque Terre was separated by by every big street in Italy to the 60s. So they maintained a particular culture, different from other areas. So there was a cultural substratum of people that believed in some core values, differently from the other areas. And in my opinion, this is important explanation. Within this background, cultural background, has been produced a visionary man that became the president of the park, the president, the person with more power, that really believed in the mission and tried to promote, and he had a strong local support. So, a visionary man that believed, and he was also very creative. So, I make just an example, but I could do 10 of these examples. You see this wine? $40, this bottle that is 35 centiliters, 1/3 of a liter. Because to produce wine in this condition, you have a lot of cost. No machine can come. Even to bring the grapes in the village, you need to put like him, okay, on your shoulder. So, but after 2 or 3 years of success of this wine, start to arrive some wines from Naples that called the Cinque Terre, like this. They was fake, but was produced with some sweeteners inside, and was sold for 10 euros. You can imagine, you come from Australia, you see Cinque Terre. Cinque Terre is the same, and you probably are tempted to buy the... And what invented the president of the park? He made an alliance with the police and said, shops that sell Cinque Terre with a lower price than production cost, they are not ticketed. They are due a panel that is we call ricettazione. Ricettazione when you is the same guilty that when you, for example, use the money that comes from the drugs.
So a crime.
Yes, it's a crime. So when you find a person that is a shop, an entrepreneur that is under this crime, you close the shop. You don't ticket him. So every shop stopped to buy, every restaurant, every the fake Cinque Terre. So you need to be creative in the place, in the time, and find a solution that is effective in this moment for this problem. So visionary man, Italian creativity applied for the mission, and they have been effective in this way.
That strikes me as another similarity between our systems is the economic value of a national park in this country is very important to the communities. And I think you are saying that there's economic value in national parks in Italy to local merchants and others as well. And so that helps build public support for protecting those areas.
Hi, I was curious if you see much energy in Italy to promote the organizational changes that perhaps it seems that you hope to see in your park systems.
Can you?
Like, you seem to appreciate the organizational structures that we have here in the U.S.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you see those changes coming to Italy or if there's any energy for that.
Been energies, but not enough to produce the political changes that is needed to create some support offices and a systemic structure, both at the regional than at national level, federal level. Now our politicians are much more oriented to problems with big debt that we have and or obtain political support through little reduction of taxes. It's and the environmental problems are not a real priority in the agenda anyway. Someone at the regional level tried to do something, but a couple of regions, Piemonte and Lazio, to create at least a regional level, the support offices, some centralized structure for the regional parks.
Thanks, Federico, for the presentation. I've got a question. At one point in your presentation, you said that facing the ecological global challenges, like with climate change, that we needed to overcome our traditional concept of a protected area.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could expand on that. I assume some of that has to do with some of the private and public activities you described, but can you explain a little bit more about what you're thinking or what you're proposing?
This is first of all online of with the new IUCN governance and management guidelines that has been published in 2015. Unfortunately, 700 pages guideline. So probably an oxymoron. In my opinion, guidelines must be at no more than 100 of pages. This is 700. But anyway, speaking about the governance, I've read this book, a new book of the IUCN, and they try in every moment to get out from the park boundaries with the perspective in the governance and the managerial strategy. In my opinion, I see, I use like a metaphor. I use this metaphor, but you need to take like a metaphor. So when you use a metaphor, is like when you see with a lens, you see better something, but you don't see many other things. So it's a metaphor. I see a park like a church, my metaphor, a place where you go to appreciate and to be connected with some value much stronger. Yes. But at the same time, you cannot be in love. If you really go in a church, in a sanctuary, in a religious place, you cannot go and just to live the values just there. You go to learn, you go also to have some community experience, but then you need to act outside. So in my opinion, the park is something similar now, something where the values of environmental ethics, conservation are stronger, much stronger, but not only to be seen and lived for a piece of time to the park. I cannot stay all my life in Acadia, in Yosemite, Then I need to try to do something in my garden, something in my city, something when I buy a car. So the environmental, in my opinion, the philosophy and ethical responsibility, commitment that have you said in your marvelous vision, rethinking national park for the 21st century, need to go much behind the park. So it's a park need to be a catalyzer of a different culture. That's my the product of, in my mind, of my experience. Okay.
Good evening, and thanks for the presentation. The National Park Service is currently creating a new system plan, and we haven't done one in 44 years. So it was very kind of Paul Bray to say that we have a system, and we do. But we are looking at redefining that system for the next century, and a lot of debate is around whether or not the park should be place-based, whether or not we should be bringing the parks to the people rather than the people to the parks. And I'm really encouraged by actually your current system in Italy, and because one of the things that the United States is looking at is whether or not we have to own all the land. Can we have stewardship, and can we have these values, and can we extend them to the communities without owning large pieces of land? So this is wonderful to see, and I'm actually anxious to see what you think of the system plan in a couple of years, and how the two countries can influence each other.
Unfortunately, I don't think that the two countries can really influence each other. I remember when I worked for the Northeast region, there was some structural change between the Northeast region and the Italian National Park. So delegation come here, came in Italy from the Northeast region, and delegation from Italy came in the United States. And in this way, with the direct experience, you can learn a lot. Moment like this can, I think, be useful to think across the ocean and influence each other. I am amazed that you do a plan for the system. Just for this, then whatever the plan will be, you think systemically. And we know in organizational side that the system thinking is the only one that can produce innovation and really move something. An entrepreneur, a leader that do not have system thinking is not doing the good job. So think systemically. It's one of the key of success in every sector. So, and you have the structure to do this. We have very good system thinker in Italy, but without the car, you go with the horse. Yes, you can. It can be beautiful, but you cannot arrive. So you have not the structure, okay, to apply the system thinking. In my experience that all the United States people I saw working to the park, most of them, 99%, so they are very motivated. They are mission-oriented. So when people have systemic structure, really mission motivation, core values, you will go certainly in the right direction. And if you come in Italy, in some places in Europe, you can learn, see our creativity.
And I would just add the people that I met in Italy who are working with protected areas, they are certainly committed and interested in spreading that conservation message beyond the park. So I was impressed with that dedication. So.
Thank you. What I'm curious about is young people, if they go to college or university, what course of study would they follow if they choose to do something in environmentalism or working in the parks? Is there a career path? You know,
No, unfortunately, this is the real problem. Even if we continuously lose good competencies in Italy. We don't know now some of the most competent director that after 4 years has been fired from a park because they didn't fit well with the new president of the park and what they are doing. Even the superintendents, you can imagine, you have a very, very, very good friend of me that we were WWF activists together when we were young. He studied natural sciences. He tried to get into a park and he always arrived second in the selection. At 38 years, he started to do physiotherapist. So it's not always the same, but I am in the board of management of a protected areas master course. That one is one of the best of Italy in the University of Camerino, has the stronger history for. We have 5, 6, 7, 10 students each year. Most of them already work for as consultant of a park or are employee of a park where the visionary manager say you are a good employee, go to the master course and learn these topics because you can grow. But also to my students, the people that made the final dissertation with me, PhD with me, then I say, try once, two, then it's not said that if you are the best park manager, you will find the work in the best park in Italy. Okay?
Well, I think that might be a great spot for us to wrap up the formal part of our program. Before we do that, I want to also note that we have another public presentation tomorrow evening at the same time, 7 o'clock, from Dan Odess, who will be speaking to us about archaeology and what the past can teach us about the present and the future. So having had a chance to interact with Dan over the last couple of days, I expect that will be a very interesting presentation and discussion. So if you are not with us for the entire Science Symposium tomorrow, but are in the area, consider joining us for that. And with that, please join me in thanking Dr. Nicolini and Sheridan.
Sorry, just the last word. I need to thank you twice because it's my first time that I do something so late in the United States. Normally I was here, I'm used to do a lot of work in the morning. And so it's double appreciated, your interest. Okay.